For tonight's Blogger Throwdown, we would like to welcome Jacob Jaffe, editor of ruleoftree.com, representing Stanford, and Scott Chong, editor of CaliforniaGoldenBlogs.com from Cal. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Jacob, let's start it off with you. Stanford is coming off a heartbreaking loss against the Fighting Irish on the road, which is something they haven't done all season. They haven't been able to get a win when they're away from home. How are they going to overcome that hump?
Well, I think the answer is pretty easy. They got to find some offense. If you look at the first two games on the road, they didn't score an offensive touchdown. They settled for 4 field goals. And when your defense only gives up 17 and 13 in regulation in 2 games and scores a touchdown in each game, you should pretty much win every time. So it's really all about the offense. The offense has looked fine when playing at home. There's no real reason it should be that much worse on the road. And I think some of it has to do with the defenses they were playing. But something about this team's mindset just has to change going into this week. And luckily, it's a rivalry game. There should be no trouble getting these guys up for this game.
Well, Scott, it's no secret that Stanford likes to run the ball with Stephen Taylor, perhaps too much. A simple quarterback sneak would have won that game against Notre Dame. But how does Cal approach this game defensively to take the ball out of Stephen's hands?
Well, everybody knows that you have to stop Stephen Taylor and put the ball, in the quarterback's inexperienced hands. Cal's been playing a lot of 2-4-5 nickel with only 2 defensive linemen. We've been playing a lot of spread offenses with mobile quarterbacks. That's not going to work against Stanford's O-line. We're going to have to, at minimum, go back with 3 down line, a true nose. We're probably going to want to put Scarlett, which is the bigger of our outside linebackers, on at one end spot. And our 2 best run defenders are Chris McCain and Avery Sebastian. McCain is a linebacker, outside linebacker, very fast, good range, good instincts. And Avery has changed the entire defense since he's moved into his starting role. Besides that, guys are going to have to win their one-on-ones. If the Stanford O-line is able to get to the second level, considering how well they execute their power run game, that's going to be a long day.
Scott, if Stanford's able to run the ball, are you confident that wide receiver Keenan Allen will be able to continue to play at such a high performance level to help the Golden Bears stay in this game?
Do you mean if Stanford is able to run the ball or is able to stop Cal's running game?
If Stanford's able to run the ball, are they going to be able to match them point for point?
Oh, well, if Stanford's able to run the ball, they're probably controlling the clock, which means, yeah, I have no question that Keenan Allen is going to play well. The question is, are we going to be able to pass protect well enough for our quarterback to consistently deliver the ball to him? If we're able to use, the short passing game, high percentage passes, keep the Stanford defenders off balance, keep Maynard's jersey clean, we've got a fighting chance. If we find ourselves in 3rd and long all day, like, that's been the theme on the losses, it's not going to work out. He's not at his best trying to force the ball into coverage. Stanford safeties are pretty good, so if they're able to put a corner, below him with safety help up top, and, Maynard has to play catch-up and has to put the ball, on his hands to win it, that's going to be tough.
Jacob, let me tell you that I love Rule of Tree, counterclockwise.
Thank you.
But do you think it's fair that Keenan has his half-brother at quarterback throwing him the ball?
Oh, I mean, who else is going to want to catch passes from Zach Maynard? They got to have somebody that'll be a receiver for him, and why not his half-brother? I mean, that's pretty much the reason he goes there. It was pretty much a package deal to get both of them there, and Keenan Allen's about the only receiver they've got at Cal, so I assume that that's why he's staying there, because who else would Zach Maynard throw to?
Well, I might interject. First, the correction. It's brother. He prefers brother, not half-brother. You'd think that someone who went to Stanford with their history of, blue bloods and nepotism would be more familiar with accurate terms with that regard. And Cal actually has other receivers to throw to. There's a young man named Richard Rogers. The name may sound familiar, as his father was a participant in the 1982 play, which disappointed John Elway for all times.
Bam! That's my dog!
There's a blogger.
That's
Jacob,
my dog!
Jacob, you can't just sit back there. Hop in.
Well, I mean, it's not my fault that he is a half-brother, whatever he wants to call him. And I think it's fair to say that they don't have any other receivers when Keenan Allen has more receptions, more yards, more touchdowns than the next 3 guys combined. I mean, he really is their whole team. So you can name a guy that played, whose father played in a game that had a miscalled play 30 years ago, but that doesn't mean that he's any good this year.
That was a decent counterpunch.
Now we're pulling up some bad blood.
Well, the whole thing, I understand that Jacob has trouble discussing this. because considering the lack of a fan base Stanford has and the fact that Rule of Tree averages about 0 comments per article, this is probably, I'm like his best friend this month. But Richard Rodgers actually has been a revelation now that he's healthy as a receiving threat. Bryce Treggs and Chris Harper are also, although they're true freshmen, they are outproducing many true freshmen that you normally see thrust in. And honestly, yeah, Keaton Allen gets the ball an awful lot. Maynard likes to lock into his first read. The last game, which is a little misleading, well, you know, Wazoo decided to play off 10 yards on a future NFL first rounder. If they're going to do that, I think we're going to throw it to him all day, and that's just simple good football.
Well, yeah, it's at Washington State. I mean, anybody can score in Washington State this year.
All right, so now
I cannot dispute that.
All right, last question. Bring your best heated argument. Scott, we'll let you start off. Who is going to win this game?
Who is going to win this game? Well, I have 3 predictions. 1, unlike the Stanford rugby team, the football team will probably show up. 2, the Stanford offense will score as many touchdowns offensively as Stanford researchers have developed periodic elements, which is 0. And 3, it's going to be a defensive struggle. It's going to be a close game, 10-7, and our field goal kicker, who missed 3 against Ohio State, is going to redeem himself with a walk-off at the end.
Jacob, what do you got?
Well, if you have to go for obscure scientific things that Stanford hasn't done, that pretty much shows what Stanford does compared to Cal. So I'm not going to insult Cal's academics because that's just beneath Stanford. I think Stanford wins this one. Probably a pretty close game throughout, and Stanford scores late to make it a 2-score game. I'll say 27-13. I just don't think Cal can stop Stanford's pass rush, and Stanford's line has manhandled Cal the past couple years. It'll be 3 in a row with this win on Saturday.
All right, that was dope. I want to thank Jacob Jaffe, editor of ruleoftree.com, and new blogger Throwdown champion Scott Chong of CaliforniaGoldenBlogs.com. Check out his website. That's my dog. You are watching Unite. That's ESPN's very first late-night show. Don't forget to tell your friends to watch every weeknight at midnight on ESPNU. Hit us on Twitter at Unite and like us on Facebook.